The government of Syria collapsing this weekend, with rebels storming the capital in Damascus Saturday night, sending President Bashar al-Assad fleeing the...
Did they really take the gold reserves, Gas? I guess that makes perfect sense, doesn't it? I guess that makes perfect sense. Of course they did. Wow.
And his family dictatorship that ruled Syria for more than 50 years, ending this weekend. All of this while President Trump is in Paris meeting with French President Emmanuel Macron for the reopening of France's majestic Notre Dame Cathedral, while conducting a sideline meeting with Ukrainian President Zelensky, who later called the talks with Trump to end the war in Ukraine productive, as Trump's foreign and domestic agenda takes shape 43 days before Inauguration Day. Incoming Senate Majority Leader John Thune is reportedly floating a non-tax cut bill to be passed before April 30th that includes up to $85 billion earmarked for border security and new energy permitting, leaving the extension of President Trump's tax cuts planned for later in 2025 as part of a potentially second reconciliation plan, despite incoming Trump officials promising tax cuts to be a priority early on. Here's Treasury Secretary nominee Scott Bessent with me the day before the November election on Mornings with Maria on Fox Business. Scott.
Yeah, Num, I figured I would make... Here's the problem, Num. Here's the problem. As fun as it was with the cooldown every 2 minutes, it became like almost dominating my chat too much. And so what I wanted to do is I wanted it to still be a really exciting thing, but happen every 20 minutes instead of every 2 minutes. But have a bigger bet, so this could be really exciting. No, Num. Did you seriously just do that, Num? Dude, you could lose it all, Num. You could lose it all. I didn't even... Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. I hope you lose it all right here. They wired all his cash and accounts to banks in Iran and China. Wow.
Real quick, if you are a member of the economic team there in President Trump's cabinet, what would be your number one or first priority in January?
Well, Maria, whether I'm on the inside or the outside, the extending or making permanent the Tax Cuts and Job Act is the priority.
Yeah,
because
got it.
If it doesn't happen, this will be the largest tax increase in U.S. history. And, I think we're going to unleash animal spirits when President Trump and the Republicans win tomorrow. Then we've got to make this permanent, and we'll give the business and households the confidence to really get on a glide path, into the next 4 years.
Joining me now in the Sunday Morning Futures exclusive is Tennessee Senator Bill Hagerty on the Senate Foreign Relations, Banking, and Housing and Urban Affairs Committees. Senator, it's wonderful to have you this morning. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Maria. It's great to be with you this morning.
I'm going to get back to the tax cuts in a moment, but we have to begin on Syria. President Trump tweeted out, put a post on Truth Social yesterday, and he writes this: Russia and Iran are in a weakened state right now, one because of Ukraine and a bad economy, the other because of Israel and its fighting success. I know Vladimir well. This is his time to act. China can help. The world is watching. Give us your sense of what took place in Syria over the weekend and how this fits into President Trump's incoming foreign policy, sir.
Well, what we've seen is a 53-year regime of the Assad family completely collapse in the face of 13 days. This wouldn't have been possible had Israel not taken its own best interests to heart and take out Hezbollah in southern Lebanon. That set off a series of activities that actually brought us to this point. Again, this was against the recommendation of the Biden administration. And to put a finer point on it, Maria, just this week, after Hama fell, and it was obvious that everything was moving toward Damascus, that Syria was going to fall, that Assad would be out, the Biden administration was working back channel, trying to relieve sanctions on Assad, trying to normalize relations with Syria. This is how out of touch they are. It can't come soon enough. January 20th, when President Trump comes into office,
that's pathetic.
we're going to see a complete sea change.
What a
Today,
joke.
What we're seeing is a massive shift in power. Iran is a paper tiger right now. They lack air support. They've had to step out of the region. Russia has had to step back. They don't have the ability to protect and defend. Again, they're wrapped around their axle in Ukraine. This is the perfect moment, I think, for President Trump to bring the architecture that he built with the Abraham.
Russia lost its Syrian ports now. That's huge, guess, isn't that? That's huge, isn't it? Let's see. Go to that's huge for that's probably huge for Russia's Black Sea fleet. I'm sure Russia's Black Sea fleet uses the Syrian ports for all sorts of Russian shenanigans all around in the Middle East. Yeah. No, that's crazy, man. That's crazy. This is crazy.
Accords back into play. He's already built the architecture. His allies in the region, America's allies in the region, know how to use this architecture to help rebuild Syria in a much more positive way. We can facilitate that with, solid diplomacy, but our allies in the region are in the place to actually build this and redo this, and I think they're best positioned to help bring, again, peace and stability to the region. The Biden administration, the Obama administration were so off base trying to create pillars of stability with, get this, with Iran and with Syria, with the JCPOA,
totally
and with their
ridiculous
attempts to normalize Syria. The right place to start are President Trump's Abraham Accords. That's the foundation. Those can be used in the region. That's how we'll see peace and stability break out.
President Trump spoke with Zelensky as well as President Macron in France this weekend. What are your expectations for the war on Ukraine as well as the war on Israel in the coming first year of the Trump administration?
It's just been extensive. And it's not just here in America. It's not the pain we're feeling here, the fact that 72% of Americans think our country's on the wrong track. It's being felt around the world. The Biden-Harris administration have put us in a far more unstable place. President Trump has been clear. He wants to see an agreement reached between Ukraine and Russia immediately. He wants to see that settled. Those discussions perhaps are already underway. You certainly see Zelensky coming to meet with President Trump this weekend in Paris. I think the opportunity is before us to get this resolved. With respect to Israel, Israel's done an incredible job dealing with Hamas, dealing with Hezbollah. They've been allowed to do, again, despite the Biden administration's recommendations, they've been allowed to step up and do what they are capable of doing. Yeah. And the result has been a massive weakening of the sword of Damocles that has been over Israel for years, for decades, and that is Hezbollah. Hezbollah has been taken out.
Senator, let me move on to domestic policy. We're going to speak with Stephen Miller coming up in just a moment, Deputy Chief of Staff there at the White House. But I want to get your take on why the Senate is pushing the tax extension plan all the way to later in the year. Does this mean you all are planning two different reconciliation packages? I understand John Thune wants between $60 and $85 billion for the border. Wall, ICE deportations, and new energy permitting reforms.
Oh, man, I was saying numb. Oh, my gosh, I can't believe that happened, numb. Oh, Pro-Law's going to be so pissed. Pro-Law's going to be so mad. The Supreme Leader in Iran should be worried if Syria can fall. Oh, exactly. Absolutely, guess, yep.
The tax bill to extend those tax cuts, sunsetting following that. Jason Smith, the chairman of House Ways and Means and the House side, does not want this. He wants the first bill geared toward taxes. What's the plan and why?
Well, the tax bill is an incredibly high priority for us. If it's not fixed this year, it's going to be more than $4 trillion worth of incremental taxes added to the backs of Americans. It's going to be a terrible impact on the economy, and we've got to see our economy strengthen and grow. That's what everyone expects from President Trump. It is a top priority. I've heard the talk about getting these other priorities underway. They're smaller, they're easier fixes. We've got to, though, look at the process. I'm willing to work through the weekends, whatever it takes to get all of this done as soon as possible.
But how tough is it going to be to do a second reconciliation?
I love that. Oh, wow, good. Our U.S. senators are willing to work through the weekend to do some stuff. Wow, what a joke. Doesn't that just come off as a joke? It's like, dude, you're destroying the country. Congress is destroying the country, and you're up there talking, oh, maybe I'll work through the weekend to help this.
I mean, you don't need a reconciliation plan for the border, right? Look, Americans just voted overwhelmingly to put President Trump back in the White House, largely because of that border and inflation. Why waste reconciliation on the border? You don't need it there. Do you need it for the tax extension?
You definitely need it for the tax extensions, but there are legislative elements of what's going on at the border right now that we need to stop. So there are aspects of it that would all benefit from a reconciliation package, whether we bring it together in one large one, which I would be fine doing, or if there's a path. And again, I'm just not clear on how we can get this done, but it needs to be done as quickly as possible, whether it's one or.
I have no idea, Wes, dude. I have no idea. I heard that it's never happened before. That's what I heard. I have no clue, though. Good to see you, though, Wes, dude. Trump said he will pardon all the J6 protesters on day one for wrongful prosecution. Hell yeah.
Two, again, my preference would be to do it all at one time as quickly as we possibly can.
So you would consider, do you think, is there a reason John Thune doesn't want to do it all together, that he's putting the extending of the tax cuts all the way at the end of next year?
I'm certain what he's doing right now is working with Russ Vought, the OMB, the people at the White House, the Budget Committee, to make certain that we have all the necessary pieces in place to achieve this effectively. The reconciliation tool should be available to us twice, but again, I'd like to see this done as quickly as possible. The momentum is behind President Trump right now. The American public has spoken. Again, we need to be doing this post-haste, and I'm happy to be here as long as it takes to make that happen.
Senator, real quick, in terms of Treasury and the...
I really don't know, Wes, dude. I've never handled a criminal case in my life. I don't know the first thing about criminal law. I definitely don't know anything about New York criminal law.
There's also a big role for sanctions. Do you have any recommendations on whether or not new sanctions should be added to any of our adversaries right now as this administration begins work?
The number one priority for incoming Secretary Bessent has got to be enforcing the sanctions that are already on the books. There's no end to my frustration with Secretary Yellen, who has told me in committee that, yes, they've imposed even more sanctions on Iran. I remind her, it doesn't matter if you put sanctions in the books, you must enforce them. Yeah. They stopped enforcing sanctions on Iran the day they came into office. Rob Malley is gone now under FBI investigation, but he was the architect of this non-enforcement of sanctions, again, trying to appease Iran. And what they did was fund terror throughout the region. So we need to enforce what's on the books first and foremost.
Very good. Senator, great to talk with you. Thanks very much. Bill Hagerty joining us this morning in Tennessee. Thank you, sir. Now, President Trump's first priority when taking office, securing the border.
You know, these are people who love our country and they're participating in our country. Those who are here committing crimes, robberies, shooting at police officers, raping innocent people, have been a harm to our country. I want to sit down and hear the plan on how we're going to address them. Those are the people I am talking about, and I would love to sit down with the border czar and hear his thoughts on how we're going to address those who are harming our citizens.
Boom, that's right, baby. Get them. Heck yeah, get them.
And that's New York City Mayor Eric Adams hoping to meet with incoming Trump administration border czar Tom Homan as he...
I don't either. I don't trust him either.
Gets ready to deport illegal criminals from America.
Yes, he is.
Joining me now is the man himself, incoming U.S. border czar Tom Homan. Tom, it's great to have you this morning. Thank you so much for being here.
Boom, Tom Homan in the house.
First, your reaction to what you're hearing from Mayor Adams, wanting to meet with you now. A bit of a 360 there, isn't it?
Yeah, but, you know, I'm pleased. I'll be meeting with him Thursday, and I hope we can partner on making New York City a safer community. President Trump's been clear we're going to prioritize public safety threats and national security threats. So I'm not surprised that Mayor Adams coming to the table, because I think his number one responsibility is protection of his communities. I'm shocked at other mayors and other governors who want to, put roadblocks up. I can't believe any elected official does not want to remove public safety threats from their communities, but we're going to do it with them.
Seriously, good point. It's like, hey, we're literally trying to get illegal aliens out of your communities who are rapists and murderers, and these Democrat governors and mayors are like, nope, we're not working with you. Nope, we don't want you to remove rapists and murder illegal aliens from our communities. Nope, we want them here. It's like, huh? Excuse me?
Or without them, we're going to get this done.
Tom, we just saw this report from the New York Post that said that 58,000 illegal criminals are running around in New York right now.
Good question.
And that they've already been convicted of crimes. Tell me about that group. Is that correct? 58,000 people who are gang members, many of whom belong to this gang, Tren de Aragua, who is incredibly dangerous in New York right now, and another hundreds of thousands of them throughout America?
Yeah, but the number's low. Like we only know what we have reports on, we have information on. Remember, a lot of these sanctuary cities, when they book a foreign national in their jail, many of these sanctuary cities don't even ask them their nationality in fear that ICE would get their hands on information. So you can guarantee there's at least 58,000 and more. And as far as Tren de Aragua, they're going to be a major priority of the Trump administration. President Trump has made that promise. And we'll be concentrating on them right out of the gate. Them, MS-13, and other criminal elements.
Tell me how you're going to do this, Tom. What's the plan? Are you expecting to use the military to round up these people? How will you get them out of the country?
Well, look, first of all, I want to make something clear to exactly what we're going to do. For all these sanctuary cities pushing back, San Diego's writing legislation. You know, you got Colorado and other states and other cities saying they're going to prevent us doing what I'm doing. I want to send them a clear message.
Bad
if you let us in the
boys.
jail, we can arrest a bad guy in the jail.
What's up, bad boys?
The safety and security of a jail. One officer could do that. But when you release a public safety threat back in the community, you put the community at risk, you put my officers at risk, you put the alien at risk. Because here's what's going to happen. You're going to release that guy in the community, I'm going to send an entire team to go look for the guy in your community. And what's going to happen? We'll find that guy, and when we find that guy, there's probably going to be others that are not a priority. However, if they're in the country illegally, they'll be arrested too, because we're not going to tell an immigration officer like this Biden administration did that you're going to turn your back on a known immigration illegal. When you're an immigration officer, you have an oath to uphold. So you are forcing us into the community.
Amen.
Where other non-priority aliens will be arrested. That's a result, the exact result you don't want. So let us into jail. It's safer for everybody, and it's the right thing to do to secure communities. What we're going to do, Murray, we're going to target, like I say, public safety threats and national security threats. We're going to send agents out on day one. We're already working on targeting. DOD, they've helped every administration. We would like DOD to help us in a lot of areas in transportation and infrastructure building, intelligence and targeting. But a sworn immigration officer with immigration authority will be making those arrests.
Yeah, I mean, you know what's great about the incoming administration is that all of you are on the same page. So you can be grabbing resources, I assume, and conversations from, like you said, defense, intelligence to actually get the job done. Is that right? Are you coordinating on a whole of government officials throughout different agencies to ensure that you can secure the border and send these illegal criminals back?
Absolutely. I've been working very closely with Steve Miller. You know, Steve Miller was the architect of the first Trump administration with unprecedented success. We're talking about bringing everybody to the game. Other law enforcement agencies, DOD. And I had to shut down my LinkedIn account because I got thousands of retired ICE agents, retired Border Patrol agents, retired police officers, retired military that want to come and do this job and make America safe again. There will be no lack of resources, but as your first segment was talking about, we need the money. We need the money to have more detention beds and more underground transportation and to conduct these operations. So I'm hoping the Hill see the light and give us the money we need to keep President Trump's promise, the mandate the American people gave him, and secure this nation, secure the border, and remove the illegal aliens from this country who are not supposed to be here. Even though we got a prioritization on public safety threats and national security threats, I want to be clear. If you're in the country illegally, you got a problem. Especially if you're a fugitive that had due process at great taxpayer expense. You were ordered removed by a federal judge. You went into hiding? No, we're going to be looking for you too. So this is going to be a huge operation. I'm looking forward to getting it started. I haven't started the operation yet, but I've already worked with the Texas governor on the plans and Texas border czar. I'm working with Mayor Adams. I met with hundreds of sheriffs the other day. The National Sheriff's Association is ready to go to work with us. So January 20th, game on.
So game on is right. Look, how much money do you need? Stephen Miller said that he told me you need between $80 and $100 billion for the border alone. Do you believe you're going to need reconciliation for that? Can you just get that in January or February to conduct what you need to conduct?
Well, $86 billion a minimum. We're going to need as much money as Congress can get us because, look, Right now, what they're doing, they spent billions of dollars on releasing illegal aliens in this country, billions of dollars to NGOs to put an alien in a hotel room at $500 a night. When we got empty ice beds, $127 a night. They're getting free hotel rooms, free meals, free medical care. What they're spending right now in the billions of dollars in perpetuity. This operation is going to be expensive to begin with. But
what I think is hilarious, NYC mayor says they're not going to help ICE arrest criminal aliens. They won't tell them where they are. Utter Muppet. Everyone knows where they are. The hotels in the 10 cities are public knowledge. You already told ICE where they are. Oh, I thought that guy basically said, the NYC mayor basically said he was going to work with them. I thought he said he was meeting with Tom Homan. He's meeting with Tom Homan this week to work together. That's what I thought he said. I don't know. I mean, I don't trust him, but I don't know. That's all I've heard.
But in the long run, there's going to be huge tax savings for the American taxpayer.
Yes, of course, and life-saving. Tom, real quick, I've been to the border at least 5 times. I saw up close and personal how these young kids are being used, exploited by the drug cartels, making believe they're part of a family when they don't even know the kids. We saw pieces the other day where a 2-year-old was apprehended, a 10-year-old was apprehended. What happens in terms of the drug cartels and their business? They use kids to get them through the border, and then do they force them to pay money to the drug cartels while they're living in America? How does it work?
Conservative Eric, what up?
Absolutely. We had over 500,000 children trafficked in this country, smuggled in this country by criminal cartels. This administration can't even find 340,000 of them that they released to unvetted sponsors. And we're going to try to find these kids and rescue them, but you're exactly right. Many of these kids are in forced labor to pay off their smuggling fees, which they'll never pay off, and many are in forced sex slavery. So President Trump is committed to finding these children. We got to do it and save these children and get them back to their families. We'll let the immigration consequences follow that, but we got to save many of these children who are living a day of hell every day because this administration let them come into the country at a 500,000 number and they release them to unvetted sponsors, which we're going to find out. Many of them are predators. Many of them are traffickers and forced labor syndicates. So this is another rail of priority President Trump has promised the American people.
Unbelievable. Tom, thank you so much for your work. We will be watching your work closely. We appreciate your time this morning, sir.
Yep. Boom. Let's go.
We know you have a huge job ahead. Tom Homan. Quick break, and then Joe Biden muddies up the waters with talk of pardons for everybody while gearing up to take care of business of pardoning his brother, Jim Biden. The New York Post columnist Miranda Devine on Biden's follies as he walks out the door. But first, President Trump's agenda with the incoming Deputy Chief of Staff, Stephen Miller, is here.
Cuts of federal contractors and others who are overbilling the federal government. So, yes, we expect all of the above. And I think people will be surprised by, how quickly we're able to move with some of those changes.
And that was the incoming co-head of the Trump administration's Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, Vivek Ramaswamy, with me here a few weeks ago. Joining me now with more on President Trump's upcoming agenda is incoming White House Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy and Homeland Security Advisor, Stephen Miller. Stephen, it's great to have you this morning. Congratulations to you. We're very interested in hearing about the road ahead. Let me start off with the conversation I just had with Bill Hagerty, and that is about the priority of border and energy, putting tax extension later in the year. Walk us through why that's the thinking, and if you, in fact, believe that is how this takes place.
Well, I think the plan is to put both on a fast track. First, you can get John Thune and Lindsey Graham have promised that they can get a full funding package for the border, the most significant border security investment in American history, which would be the biggest domestic policy win in at least 50 years, to the president's desk in January or early February. That would mean a massive increase in ICE officers working on the deportation operation that Tom Homan just laid out. That would mean a historic increase in border agents, a pay raise for both, full funding for military
Sounds amazing. Let's get it done, along with some massive spending cuts to pay for it. Yeah.
Operations, full funding for ICE beds, full funding for air and marine operations, full funding for all of the barriers and technology that you need to ensure there's never another Godaway entering this country. Now, President Trump, regardless, on day one is going to...
I'm tired of being called a far-right Nazi for chanting mass deportations, mass deportations, mass deportations. According to stupid Britain, America has suddenly morphed into a far-right ethno-state. Europeans are stupid and weak of mind. That's ridiculous, conservative Irk. Yeah. So literally, conservative Irk, now you're a far-right Nazi for simply wanting to have a country? for simply wanting to have borders and a rule of law and to have a country and to have immigration laws and to follow the immigration laws. That's outrageous, man. Yeah, what the heck is wrong with you Europeans and you British people? What the Quampa, what's up, Quampa? So you are not a Bitcoin supporter. I support Bitcoin. Yeah, I believe in Bitcoin. I believe it should be legal. I support Bitcoin. Asayas, what's up, Asayas? I'm happy to catch your story stream again. Looking forward to the MSFS content later. Oh yeah, I got my joystick out already. Let's go.
Issue a series of executive orders that seal the border shut and begin the largest deportation operation in American history. But you're talking about what would be the largest investment in immigration and border security. This is something the Republicans have been talking about for decades, but with Donald Trump, this is something that is going to happen. It will be the most important and significant, as I said, domestic policy achievement in half a century. Then the plan, as Senator Thune has laid out, as incoming Majority Leader Thune has laid out, would be to move immediately at that point. Now we're talking in January, early February, immediately to the comprehensive tax reform package. That's where you have to figure out SALT, right? The state and local deductions. That's where you're going to figure out about different policy baselines that you're going to use for the tax cuts, about corporate tax reform, about trade reform, manufacturing reform, and all those tax policies. And with the 2 or 3 seat majority in the House, obviously, that's going to take some time. So this isn't nobody, I repeat, nobody is even talking or considering delaying tax. What the Senate has talked about doing is giving the president, within a week or two of taking the oath of office, the most significant domestic policy achievement in at least 50 years. Our Border Patrol, our ICE officers.
That sounds amazing to me. If Trump gets in and it can sign like a massive bill to secure the border, like within a week of taking office, that sounds great, man. I'm down.
Every element of our domestic security operation will be fully funded.
I just don't own any, Quampa. I just don't own any myself, Quampa. I just don't own any Bitcoin myself. I'm not invested in Bitcoin. I haven't invested in it myself. Maybe that's why you thought that, because I have said that before. The issue is most of Europe is detached from actual immigration, mostly because countries like Turkey stops most of it. Most of what they get are those that can get on a boat from North Africa. True. Yeah, good point.
Take down the cartels and eradicate the criminal gang threat in this country once and for all.
Yeah.
Tax reform will happen. It will happen, and it will be the greatest tax bill that we've ever seen. Now, these are not final. These are ongoing discussions and negotiations.
Put that down.
I just want to be very clear that no one's talking about delaying tax reform. What they're talking
No, I don't, Altair. No, I don't, Altair.
Talking about doing is before government funding expires.
Dude, sick, Asayas. Oh my gosh, Asayas, you're making me jealous, Asayas. You're making me want to stop this snooze content stream and immediately start playing. Oh my gosh.
March, before the debt ceiling expires.
I gotta get through all the training missions still, just because I have to complete the training missions just because, I don't know, I'm neurotic or whatever you want to call it, completionist, whatever you want to call it. I have to do them and have them, at least have them all like completed, even though I've done all of them. I know how to fly, etc. It's also good to get my control. It's been helping me get control. So, all right, we gotta get through these. We gotta get through this so I can start flying.
In June, just days after he puts his hand on that Bible, giving President Trump the biggest domestic policy win that anybody has seen in our lifetime.
Okay, he said that like 20 times now. Thanks, bro.
Maria.
Yeah, I understand that. And I know nobody knows more about immigration than you. And nobody knows more about these threats than you. And, of course, Tom Homan as well. So I appreciate what you're saying, and I appreciate your work. But, Stephen, is there any way that or risk that you believe is out there that if you wait until later in the year to extend those tax cuts in a separate reconciliation package, you're already doing one reconciliation package earlier in the year. If you wait for a second reconciliation in the end of the year, do you believe that there's risk that that doesn't happen?
No, there's zero risk of that for a few reasons. And again, these are ongoing conversations and discussions, Maria, so nothing's even remotely final yet. But There's zero chance of that because, as you know, the tax cuts expire this year. And there's not a chance in the entire world, they expire in the fall, that Republicans are not going to fully extend and expand the Trump tax cuts. There's absolutely zero chance of that. And we're going to have more members a few months from now than we do right now. And you're not just going to have tax cuts, but you're going to have other fiscal reforms that members badly want. You're going to have energy reforms, maybe additional border reforms. But the very important point in all of this is that with the current size of the majority in the House, there isn't a proposal to pass taxes in February. That's going to take some period of time. Remember, the Trump tax cuts in 2017 were passed in December of that year. We can significantly beat, by the way, that record, significantly beat it. And when President Trump comes into office right away, he's going to fully deregulate the energy market, fully deregulate the financial market, fully deregulate this economy. You're going to get a jolt of job growth and job creation and inflation relief from his deregulatory agenda, unlike anything anyone has ever seen before.
Yeah,
but it's really important to underscore that what John Thune is talking about is not delaying anything. In fact, when you have a massive win, when you've delivered the American people the biggest, most important, most comprehensive border package in history, just days after he takes the oath of office, that kind of momentum, that kind of teamwork and team building will speed the delivery of tax reform. But again, whether we do it in one track or two tracks, remember, Democrats did 2 reconciliation bills.
Yeah.
The president is going to get his agenda enacted through Congress, and it will be historic.
Real quick, Stephen, before you go on foreign policy, what are President Trump's priorities going into office less than 50 days away as we watch Syria collapsing, as we watch Ukraine wanting a ceasefire deal, and, of course, China on the march?
Well, obviously, the events that are unfolding in Syria are a massive setback for Russia, a massive setback for Iran. As the president has said, we don't want anything to do with governing the fractious nightmare that is Syria. And obviously, we have to have strong immigration controls, to my earlier point, to make sure that nobody from that hellhole that is unfolding right now that has negative or murderous intentions enters the United States. But this just puts more pressure on the regime in Iran to enter a more peaceful phase, and it puts more pressure on Russia to enter into a ceasefire. President Trump's priority, as he has outlined, is going to be peace in the region.
Okay, we will leave it there. Great interview, so informative. Stephen, best wishes to you. Stephen.
Well said, Conservative Irk, 100% spot on, Conservative Irk. But hey, guess what, Conservative Irk? Guess what's cool, Conservative Irk? It's 2024, and you can come hang out and talk to me. And basically Americans that still believe in basic notions of freedom, that trace their intellectual lineage all the way back to England. And here we are in 2024, me and you communicating. Isn't that a wonderful thing?
Miller joining us this
making sure that Donald Trump's economic and energy agenda gets across the line on Capitol Hill. His mandate, Maria, I know I've said it several times, but it is a wide political victory for Donald Trump. So if you want to talk about prices at the pump or prices in a grocery store, getting his energy agenda accomplished through Washington is going to be critically important.
And that's Florida Congressman Byron Donalds with me here 2 weeks ago ahead of the start of the 119th Congress on January 3rd. Republicans will enter the House with a 220 to 215 advantage. But that lead is expected to be cut down to 217 very soon, after Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz steps down and New York Congresswoman Elise Stefanik and Florida Congressman Michael Waltz resign to join the Trump administration. That leaves House Republicans with no room for defections in their bid to pass Trump's agenda, since legislation would fail to pass in a tie in the lower chamber. Joining me now is the 55th Speaker of the House, former California Congressman Kevin McCarthy. Speaker McCarthy, good to see you. Thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Kevin McCarthy going on the Sunday shows?
Let's talk about what is about to take place. I feel like it's deja vu all over again with a slim majority here in the House. You've been listening to our conversations about putting the tax cut plan later on in the year. Your reaction?
Well, that's all doable, but it is all doable if it depends how this year ends. Because right now it doesn't look like they're going to finish this year's funding and they're going to push that into next year's funding. So what that means is you're putting more burden on President Trump. You're not giving him the honeymoon. So that means government funding they never got done this year, and they got to get that done by next March. Well, if they're worried on that, that delays everything else. Not doing the border and the tax doesn't delay anything. It's that funding. What The plan I had is you got the funding done, and you could actually do the debt ceiling now, too, to truly give President Trump a honeymoon. Remember, when you reconstitute a new Congress, you have to constitute committees. He has to confirm his cabinet.
That's the exact opposite. So you're saying give up all of our leverage on the spending bills and the debt ceiling now and just give it blowout continued spending and continued forever debt, and that gives Trump a honeymoon? No, Kevin McCarthy, that's totally wrong. Do the opposite. What we want as conservatives and as Trump supporters is we want the debt ceiling and spending issues to come up right in February and March. Because then Trump and all the Republicans can come in and say, yeah, we're not raising the debt ceiling. We're not passing more spending unless we get spending cuts, unless we get a balanced budget, unless we get this, unless we get that. What's Kevin McCarthy talking about? Giving up all of our leverage? No wonder this guy got thrown out.
But if you're bogged down with doing funding, which was during Biden's time.
Funding? That's the most important thing they do, you jerk. Acting as if that's a side issue.
That's taking away President Trump's opportunity to have a honeymoon and put his policies in place.
So do you expect this agenda to get done the way Stephen Miller just lined it out?
It very
nice, Copperhead. Good for you, man.
Well, can do. I expect that to get done. That's just the way President Trump works. But you're actually handicapping President Trump by not doing your job of the funding of this year and pushing it into next year. You're giving him more problems and instead of letting him look to.
No, that's not a problem, dude. Having the debt limit come up and having spending come up is not a problem. That's where all of your power and leverage and authority is. This guy's a lunatic. What a swamp creature.
The future and get things moving in a more rapid way.
Why is it so?
And you have a smaller majority going forward. Remember that. And remember why President Trump won. It was the economy. It was border. It was energy. And the foreign policy. And let him do that job instead of worrying about funding that happened last year.
Why is it so tough to get the funding done? Why isn't the funding done and that they have to push it into the first quarter of next year?
Well, you'd have to ask the current leadership. I mean, I don't think it's difficult to do. I think they can get a deal, and I think it'd be very important to help.
Yeah, the way that you get a deal right now is you get all the Democrats to vote for Pelosi Schumer spending, along with all the rhinos like you. That's how it gets done. We don't want that. That's why it's not getting done. Why isn't Maria pushing back on this clown?
President Trump have that honeymoon to make sure he could get his agenda through and get all that done. Do not burden him with the Biden-era problems and let him govern the way the American public wants him to.
And Kevin, what is your opinion or reaction to President Trump initially naming Matt Gaetz as the AG?
Well, no one thought that would pass. I blame Matt Gaetz for lying to the president about his ethics report. People know that that's why he made the motion against me. People know that's why he's not capable of even staying in Congress. He needed an excuse to resign because the ethics report would be done in a couple days, and that's unfortunate. But it's a better Congress today of where they're going forward.
Well, you just heard Stephen Miller say that this is going to be President Trump's biggest domestic policy win in 50 years.
Yeah, I mean, think about what President Trump can do on the first day, his executive orders, his rolling back on the regulations. You're already seeing it on a foreign policy basis, just watching his presence bring greater stability to the world.
All right, enough with this. Let's do, I want to do Meet the Press with Donald Trump, obviously. And then from here, we're going to play Microsoft Flight Simulator. So 47 minutes. Cool.
This Sunday, return to office. My exclusive interview with President-elect Donald Trump, his plans for the economy, and his promises for mass deportation.
Is it your plan to deport everyone who is here illegally over the next 4 years?
Well, I think you have to do it.
And will he seek retribution against his political enemies?
Are you going to go after Joe Biden?
I'm really looking to make our country successful. I'm not looking to go back into the past. Retribution will be through success.
Plus, his vow to pardon those convicted of attacking the Capitol on January 6th.
I'm going to be acting very quickly.
Within your first 100 days, first day?
First day.
And now that he's won the 2024 election, has he changed his mind about his 2020 loss?
For the sake of unifying this country, will you concede the 2020 election?
Altair, here's what I understand about the Syria situation, Altair. Okay, Bashar al-Assad and the House of Assad are long-standing Mideast dictators, Mideast strongmen, whatever you want to call them, and recently have been propped up and allied with Russia and Iran and Hezbollah. And so the problem with Syria is it's a very complicated place. There's all sorts of different interests there. The other big problem is there's lots of terrorists there. There's lots of Al-Qaeda terrorists. There's lots of Shia terrorists. There's lots of Sunni terrorists. And so historically, the U.S. interest in Syria has basically been limited to like basically trying to prevent it from becoming too much of a stronghold for Iran and Russia, and prevent it from becoming too destabilized, and prevent it from being used to launch attacks and everything else. And so, and frankly, prevent it from becoming even worse than Bashar al-Assad, or becoming a hotbed of, you know, refugees fleeing and all sorts of problems. It's just a horrible mess, which is why, frankly, Damascus is mentioned in the end times so much, I think, in the Bible and stuff. It's a really important region and a lot going on there. But I think, generally speaking, I mean, Assad is our enemy. He fell. Alter, the reason Assad fell was because Iran, Hezbollah, and Russia didn't have the ability to continue to support Assad and prop up Assad, because Russia's distracted in Ukraine and Iran and Hezbollah are in a war with Israel and getting wiped out by Israel. So Assad couldn't have the external support they needed to maintain power, and so he got pushed out. And the reason that it happened, that the timing that it happened when it did, is because Assad was viewed as an ally of Iran and Hezbollah, and the Al-Qaeda terrorists and the rebels and everybody else didn't want to be viewed by the public as going to war and overthrowing somebody who was fighting against Israel or helping Hezbollah and Iran in their fight against Israel. So that's why this did not happen. This did not happen until after the Hezbollah ceasefire. And Hezbollah just did the ceasefire with Israel like a week ago or 2 weeks ago, right? Which basically they did because they've been defeated militarily, which is awesome. It's fantastic. It's so cool. But as soon as that happened, now there's a ceasefire. Now the rebels can go in and or Al-Qaeda or whoever these different groups are can go in and overthrow Assad, and not be accused of basically helping somebody who is at war with Israel and assisting others who are at war with Israel. And so whether it's good or not for us in the end, I think is going to depend on what's the replacement. If Bashar al-Assad is replaced with the civil war and you have millions and millions of more refugees and all sorts of horrible things happen and it spirals and causes regional war, then obviously it was not a good thing. If it's replaced by another dictator who's friendly to the West, great. If it's replaced by Al-Qaeda, if Assad is replaced by Al-Qaeda, probably not a good benefit for us. Yep, right, conservative Irk. Last I heard, it was not confirmed Assad was dead. Rumored. I heard he was in Moscow. I saw he was in Russia. You and Aaron going as press for inauguration week in Radio Row. I wish, guess. I wish so bad. I wish. I heard the new leader's former Al-Qaeda, so I wasn't sure if it'd be worse now. Yeah, that's the problem, right? Kiswan, what's up, Kiswan? Howdy, lecture. Hope you're well. Thank you, Kiswan. Same to you. Thanks for listening. You bet, Altair. Yeah, I didn't even know that the new leader's former Al-Qaeda, but that matches exactly with what I just said, right? The question is, were the Assad's chemical and bioweapons, right?
And turn the page on that chapter.
Joining me for insight and analysis are NBC News managing Washington editor Carol Lee,
Democrat,
Politico playbook co-author Eugene Daniels,
Democrat,
Mark Short, former chief of staff to Vice President Mike Pence,
Rhino,
and former White House press secretary Jen Psaki.
Democrat.
Welcome to Sunday and a special edition of Meet the Press.
from NBC News
Are
in
you guys
Washington.
ready? 5 Democrats and a rhino. It's going to be so cool, guys. 5 Democrats and a rhino.
The longest running show in
That
television
includes
history.
Kristen Welker.
This is a special edition of Meet the Press with Kristen Welker.
Good Sunday morning. President-elect Donald Trump is the first president to win non-consecutive terms since Grover Cleveland. And we haven't heard from him extensively since his decisive victory until now. I sat down with the president-elect at Trump Tower in New York on Friday for his first broadcast interview since winning the election. We spoke for nearly an hour and a half in a wide-ranging conversation about what these next 4 years will look like. He told me his first 100 days will focus on bringing down prices, addressing the border, and getting his cabinet picks confirmed. And I asked him what he'll do on his first day in office. I understand that on day one, you're going to be signing a flurry of executive orders. Can you give me just what are the top ones people should know about?
A lot of it will have to do with economics. A lot's going to have to do with energy. A lot's going to do with having to do with the border. We're going to immediately strengthen up the border and do a real job. And some of the basics.
I began the interview with one of the top issues for voters, the economy and the cost of living. I want to delve into one of your signature promises on the campaign trail, which was to end inflation, to lower prices. You are now proposing tariffs against the United States' 3 biggest trading partners. Economists of all stripes say that ultimately consumers pay the price of tariffs.
I don't believe
Can you guarantee?
So she literally just totally just exposed herself for not understanding tariffs, not understanding how Trump uses tariffs. Oh, this is going to be brutal.
American families won't pay more?
I can't guarantee anything. I can't guarantee tomorrow. But I can say that if you look at just pre-COVID, we had the greatest economy in the history of our country. And I had a lot of tariffs on a lot of different countries, but in particular China. We took in hundreds of billions of dollars, and we had no inflation. In fact, when I handed it over, they didn't have inflation for a year and a half. They went almost 2 years just based on what I had created. And then they created inflation with energy and with spending too much. So I think I'm a big believer in tariffs. I think tariffs are the most beautiful word. I think they're beautiful. It's going to make us rich. We're subsidizing Canada to the tune of over $100 billion a year. We're subsidizing Mexico for almost $300 billion. We shouldn't be subsidizing. Why are we subsidizing these countries? If we're going to subsidize them, let them become a state. We're subsidizing Mexico, and we're subsidizing Canada, and we're subsidizing many countries all over the world.
If we're going to subsidize Mexico and Canada, let them become a state. I love it so much. I love it so much.
And all I want to do is I want to have a level, fast, but fair playing field.
Sir, your previous tariffs during your first administration cost Americans some $80 billion. And now you have major companies from Walmart, Black & Decker, AutoZone saying that any tariffs are going to force them to drive up prices for their consumers. How do you make sure?
Again, fails to recognize what often happens with tariffs when they're put on countries like China, which is that the CCP ends up just subsidizing those products or reducing the price of the product so that they pay it, so that they have less profit, so that they pay the tariff. Just blatant misinformation.
These CEOs, that these companies don't, in fact, pass on the cost of tariffs to their consumers.
They cost Americans nothing. They made a great economy for us. They also solve another problem. If we were going to have problems having to do with wars and having to do with other things, tariffs, I have stopped wars with tariffs by saying, you guys want to fight, it's great, but both of you are going to pay tariffs to the United States at 100%. And they have many purposes, tariffs, if properly used. I don't say you use them like a madman. I say properly used. But it didn't cost this country anything. It made this country money. And we never really got the chance to go all out because we had to fight COVID in the last part. And we did it very successfully. And when I handed it over to Biden, the stock market was higher than what it was just previous to COVID coming in. It was actually higher. Tariffs are a properly used, are a very powerful tool, not only economically, but also for getting other things outside of economics.
Are you actually going to impose these tariffs, or are they a negotiating tactic?
Well, I'll give you an example.
Right, Altair. It's like now you suddenly care about rising prices. Now suddenly Democrats care about rising prices. Well, yeah, since that's already an issue, maybe we can try to reorient our economy back to some kind of semblance of stability and sustainability, and we're not getting ripped off all the time. And rising prices, you know, we can deal with that like we're dealing with it now.
With Canada, and in particular Mexico, we have millions of people pouring into our country. You agree with that? I spoke with I spoke with Justin Trudeau. In fact, he flew to Mar-a-Lago within about 15 seconds after the call ended. Yeah. He was at Mar-a-Lago. We were having dinner talking about it. I said, you have to close up your borders because they're coming in the northern border too a lot. Not like the southern border, but they're coming in the Canadian border a lot. And drugs are pouring in. Almost as importantly, drugs are pouring in, maybe more importantly, drugs are pouring in at levels never seen before, 10 times what we had. They're just pouring in. We can't have open borders. And I said to the president of Mexico and to Justin Trudeau, if it doesn't stop, I'm going to put tariffs on your country at about 25%.
The chairman of the Federal Reserve, Jerome Powell, said he will not leave his post even if you ask him to. Will you try to replace Jerome Powell?
No, I don't think so. I don't see it. But I think if I told him to, he would. But if I asked him to, he probably wouldn't. But if I told him to, he would.
You don't have plans to do that right now?
No, I don't.
Okay, let's talk about mass deportation, one of your big agenda items. You've talked about...
I love it. So they've been freaking out. Oh my gosh, freaking out. Trump is going to fire the Fed chair. Trump is going to fire the... Oh my gosh, Trump. You're going to do that, Trump? No, I'm not. Okay.
Prioritizing people who have criminal histories.
Correct.
But is it your plan to deport everyone who is here illegally over the next 4 years?
Well, I think you have to do it. And it's a very tough thing to do. But you have to have, you have rules, regulations, laws. They came in illegally. The people that have been treated very unfairly are the people that have been online for 10 years to come into the country. And we're going to make it very easy for people to come in terms of they have to pass the test. They have to be able to tell you what the Statue of Liberty is. They have to tell you a little bit about our country. They have to love our country. They can't come out of prisons. We don't want people that are in for murder. So we had 11,000 and 13,000 different estimates, 13,099 murderers released into our country over the last 3 years. They're walking down the streets. They're walking next to you and your family, and they're very dangerous.
The 13,000 figure, I think, goes back about 40 years.
No, it doesn't. No, it's within the 3-year period. Figure. It's during the Biden term. No, that was a...
All right, guys. Hey, Bad Boys is getting a heist together. Hey, guys. New rules for the heist. This only happens every 25 minutes, guys. This only happens once every 25 minutes. So if you want to do a heist, now's your chance. Check your polls and then heist as many as you want because now's your chance.
Fiction that they put that out. This was done by the Border Patrol. It's 13,099, and it's during the Biden period of time. And these are murderers.
New rules, you can do 35,000. You can heist up to 35,000 now.
Who murdered more than one person. You don't want those people in this country.
But you're saying something, sir, that's significant. I just want to make sure I'm clear, which is that you're saying, yes, you're going to focus on the people with criminal histories, but everyone who's here illegally has to go.
I'm saying this. We have to get the criminals out of our country. We have to get people that were taken out of mental institutions and put them back into their mental institution, no matter what country it is. Do you know that Venezuela, their prisons are at the lowest point in terms of emptiness that they've ever been? They're taking their people out of those prisons by the thousands, and they're drunk. And just to get back, because I know exactly what you're getting at. Number one, we're doing criminals, and we're going to do them really rapidly. We're getting the worst gang probably with MS-13, and the Venezuelan gangs are the worst in the world. They're vicious, violent people. And you see what they've done in Colorado and other places. They're taking over, literally taking over apartment complexes and doing it with impunity. They don't care. They couldn't They just are, they're in the real estate business.
You know, the local police say that is not the case in Colorado.
Oh, it's totally the case. I mean, I have it on
you don't
tape.
believe the local police.
I play it. I used to play it at my rallies every single night. No, they're breaking into doors. They're taking over the building.
But sir, you
and by the
raised
way, the
point,
police are afraid to do anything.
You raised the point that the logistics are complicated. You said
Sure
it yourself.
they are,
You would
but
need
everythmore complicated.
Yeah,
I
you
agree,
need 24 times
conservative,
more
yep.
ICE detention capacity just to deport 1 million people per year, not to mention more agents, more judges, more planes. Is it realistic to deport everyone who's
You have
here
no
illegally?
choice. First of all, they're costing us a fortune. But we're starting with the criminals, and we got to do it. And then we're starting with others, and we're going to see how it goes.
Who are the others?
Others are other people outside of criminals. We have convicted murders. We don't mean people that are even on trial. We have people that have murdered numerous people are on our streets and in our farms, and we have to get them out of our country.
What about dreamers, sir? Dreamers who were brought to this country illegally as children. You said once back in 2017, they, quote, shouldn't be very worried about being deported. Should they be worried now?
The dreamers are going to come later, and we have to do something about the dreamers because these are people that have been brought here at a very young age, and many of these are middle-aged people now. They don't even speak the language of their country. And yes, we're going to do something about the dreamers.
What does that mean?
And
what are you going to do?
I will work with the Democrats on a plan, and if we can come up with a plan, but the Democrats have made it very, very difficult to do anything. Republicans are very open to the dreamers. The dreamers, we're talking many years ago, they were brought into this country, many years ago. Some of them are no longer young people, and in many cases, they become successful. They have great jobs. In some cases, they have small businesses.
Oh, wow, the boss fight happened.
In some cases,
the boss is named Freedom, by the way. The boss is named Freedom. That's why it says Freedom Wipe the Floor.
Have large businesses, and we're going to have to do something with them. And
you want them to be able to stay. That's what you're saying.
I do.
Okay.
I want to be able to work something out, and it should have been able to be worked out over the last 3 or 4 years, and it never got worked out. You know, Biden could have done it because he controlled, Congress to a certain extent, right? He could have done something, but they didn't do it. I never understood why, because they always seem to want to do it, but then when it comes down to it, they don't. I think we can work with the Democrats and work something out.
Let me ask you about another group of people, the estimated 4 million families in America who have mixed immigration status. So I'm talking about parents who might be here illegally, but the kids are here legally. Your borders are.
You're talking about separation.
Yeah, well, I mean, there are two aspects.
You're talking about separation? Yeah, because we all know that this whole family separation thing is a line the Democrats love to take. It's like, oh, well, Democrats, did you realize? Well, yeah, when the parents commit a crime and get arrested, but the kids didn't commit a crime and don't get arrested, yeah, the parent goes to jail and the kids get to stay at home. They get separated. That's what happens when the parents are criminals.
Aspects to this. Your border czar, Tom Homan, said they can be deported together.
Correct.
Is that the plan?
Well, that way you keep well, I don't want to be breaking up families. So the only way you don't break up the family is you keep them together and you have to send them all back.
Even kids who are here legally?
Well, what you're going to do if they want to stay with the father, look, we have to have rules and regulations. You can always find something out like, this doesn't work, that doesn't work. I'll tell you what's going to be horrible. When we take a wonderful young woman who's with a criminal and they show the woman, and she could stay by the law, but they show the woman being taken out, or they want her out, and your cameras are focused on her as she's crying, as she's being taken out of our country, and then the public turns against us. But we have to do our job, and you have to have a series of standards and a series of laws. And in the end, look, our country is a mess.
Let me ask you about some of your other promises on this topic. You've promised to end birthright citizenship on day one. Is that still your plan?
Yeah, absolutely.
The 14th Amendment, though, says that, quote,
wow, that's huge, man. Ending birthright citizenship on day one is absolutely huge. That's fantastic. And then, of course, here's the problem.
Persons born in the United States are citizens. Can you get around?
Wow, this is where she left out the most important part of that amendment, which says all people born in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens. So she just intentionally, Meet the Press, just intentionally lied about the Constitution right there. Straight up lie and misinformation about the Constitution.
the 14th Amendment with an
Well, we're going to
executive
have to
action?
get a change. We'll maybe have to go back to the people, but we have to end it. We're the only country that has it.
Through an executive action?
You know,
you're
we're
gonna
the only country that has it. Do you know, if somebody sets a foot, just a foot, 1 foot, you don't need to, on our land, congratulations, you are now a citizen of the United States of America. Yes, we're going to end that because it's ridiculous.
Through executive
Do you know,
action?
Well, if we can, through executive action. I was going to do it through executive action, but then we had to fix COVID first, to be honest with you. We have to end it.
Let's talk about health care. I've been talking to Republican lawmakers on Capitol Hill.
I agree, Altair, 100%.
They say,
yes, I think there is none. Obviously, it'll be litigated. It'd be better if Congress does it. Even then, it'll be litigated. It'll be up to the Supreme Court in the end.
it's no longer feasible to repeal and replace Obamacare because it's so entrenched in the system. Do you see it that way? Is that now off the table, repealing and replacing
when John
Obamacare?
McCain let us down by voting, and Murkowski and Collins and whoever it was that voted against, but they really let us down. They did us a great disservice because we would have had great health. Obamacare is lousy health care.
It's horrible.
It's very expensive
so
health care for the
yeah.
people. It's also expensive for the country, but for the people, it's lousy health care. When John
awful.
McCain gave his thumbs down,
I've had Obamacare before. I've had Obamacare. It's garbage.
Saying for 10 years that he wants to repeal and replace, okay? And then he came out, put his now famous thumbs down, and he became a hero to the left. Let me tell you, if we find something better, I would love to do it. But but one thing I have to say, I inherited Obamacare, or anything else you want to go. It's got about 20 names, but I inherited it. And I had a decision to make with Health and Human Services. I had a big decision to make. Do I make it as good as we can make it, or do I let it rot? And a lot of political people said, let it rot and let it be a failure. I said, that's not the right thing to do. And I had very good people in the medical area that handled that. And I said, what do you want to do? He said, we really have an obligation to make it as good as we can. And we did. We made it as good as we can make it. Instead of making it bad where everybody would be calling for its repeal, I made it so that it works. Now,
but you did try to overturn it, sir.
Well, it's lousy.
You did try to overturn it. You did have your Justice Department try to direct the Supreme Court to.
No, we got a little bit of a surprising opinion, to be honest with you. If it would have been overturned, we would have had much better health care right now. But right now, we have something that I made the best of. I could have made the worst of it, and it would have fallen by the wayside. I did the right thing from a human standpoint. But, you know, I'm sort of proud of my decision. At the same time, sometimes I regret it. I told the people, and I gave them the money to do it. I said, fix it, make it work, because people would have suffered. But it's too bad that they voted no. I wish John McCain, he fought for 10 years on replacing Obamacare, for 10 years, and then he voted against. Nobody understands it.
Sir, you said during the campaign you had concepts of a plan. Do you have an actual plan at this point for health care?
Yes, we have concepts of a plan that would be better.
Still just concepts? Do you have a fully developed plan?
Let me explain. We have the biggest healthcare companies looking at it. We have doctors. We're always looking because Obamacare stinks. It's lousy. There are better answers. If we come up with a better answer,
I agree, Guess. I agree.
Would present that answer to Democrats and to everybody else, and I do something about it. But until we have that, or until they can approve it, but we're not going to go through the big deal. I am the one that saved Obamacare, I will say, and I did the right thing. I could have done the more political thing and killed it, and all I had to do is starve it to death.
You did try to have your Justice Department effectively kill it, though,
No.
sir.
Kill it from a legal standpoint, but from a physical standpoint, I made it work.
In your concepts of a plan, sir, will people with pre-existing conditions still have coverage, and can you guarantee their prices will not go up?
The answer is yes, they'll have coverage. You have to have it.
And what about their prices?
Because you know what?
What about their prices, sir?
I want the prices to go down. I want to have better health care for less money. And there are ways of doing it, I believe.
Let's talk about abortion, sir. You have taken responsibility for overturning Roe v. Wade. You've said that abortion is now a state issue. There are steps that you could take, though, as president to restrict abortion through executive action without Congress. More than half of abortions in this country are medication abortions. Will you restrict the availability of abortion pills when you're in office?
I'll probably stay with exactly what I've been saying for the last 2 years, and the answer is no.
You commit to that?
Well, I commit. I mean, do things change? I think they change. I hate to go on shows like Joe Biden. I'm not going to give my son a pardon. I will not, under any circumstances, give him a pardon. I watched this, and I always knew he was going to give him a pardon, and so I don't like putting myself in a position like that. So things do change, but I don't think it's going to change at all.
And when we come back, will President-elect Trump direct his FBI director and attorney general to go after his political enemies? Welcome back. In our interview, President-elect Trump defended some of his cabinet picks, including his embattled choice for Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. Hegseth, an Army veteran, is facing allegations of past sexual misconduct and excessive drinking, which he denies. Mr. Trump told me he has confidence in Hegseth. I also asked him about his choice for FBI Director Kash Patel, a hardline critic of the very agency he's been tapped to lead. You named Kash Patel to be the next FBI director. Yeah. He has a list in his book of 60 people that he calls members of the so-called deep state. It includes Democrats like Joe Biden and Hillary Clinton. It includes former members of your cabinet, from Bill Barr to Christopher Wray. You campaigned on destroying the deep state. Do you want Kash Patel to launch investigations into people on that list?
No, I mean, he's going to do what he thinks is right.
Do you think that's right? Do you think that's right, sir?
If they think that somebody was dishonest or crooked or a corrupt politician, I think he probably has an obligation to do it. But
are you going to direct him to do it?
No, not at all. Not at all. We have two great people there. We have him and we have Pam. And Pam Bondi has been like a rocket ship. She's very popular and very good and very fair. And Kash Patel is very fair. I'll tell you, I thought Kash may be difficult because he's, a strong conservative voice. And I don't know of anybody that's not singing his praises. The other day I was watching, and Trey Gowdy, who's a moderate person and very smart and very respected in the party, he's Kash's biggest fan. He said, this is the most misunderstood man in politics. He's great. I guess they worked together on the Russia hoax or something. And Trey Gowdy became a fan. Trey Gowdy. Everybody respects him. And, just like him, others also. I don't know of one negative vote. I don't think he's going to have any negative votes.
Is it your expectation, though, that Kash Patel will pursue investigations against your political enemies?
No.
Is Kash Patel going to pursue investigations against political opponents? Because that's what Biden did. I can't believe it's so outrageous they asked Trump this without recognizing that this is what they do. It's honestly, these people are on a totally different planet. It's unbelievable.
No. I don't think so.
Do you want to see that happen?
If they were crooked, if they did something wrong, if they have broken the law, probably they wouldn't have.
The Democrats are literally trying to set this up. The Democrats are literally trying to set this up so that no Democrats can be investigated for the next 4 years, because otherwise it's Trump investigating political opponents. It's like, no, if they're corrupt, if they committed crimes, they're getting investigated. I don't care if they're Democrats. I'm not letting them get away with that one.
After me, they went after me and I did nothing wrong.
Well, let me ask you this. You said President Biden, quote, that you're going to appoint a real special prosecutor to go after Joe Biden. You said that during the campaign.
Where?
You said that on Truth Social, June 12th, 2023. I will appoint a real special prosecutor to go after the most corrupt president in the history of the United States, Joe Biden, and the entire Biden crime family. Are you going to do that? Are you going to go after Joe Biden?
I'm really looking to make our country successful. I'm not looking to go back into the past. I'm looking to make our country successful. Retribution will be through success. If we can make this country successful, that would be that would be such a great achievement. Bring it back. We have a country now that's overridden with crime, that has millions of people that shouldn't be here, that should be in prisons in other countries, that should be in mental institutions. We have drug lords being dropped into our country and told never go back to their country. I'm looking to make our country great. I'm looking to bring prices down because, I won on two things, the border and more than immigration. You know, they like to say immigration. I break it down more to the border, but I want on the border. And
right, Numb. Right. That's a great comeback, Numb. The next time somebody asks if Trump should prosecute his political opponents, we should say the political opponents that committed crimes, like making up fake intel to spy on his campaign, or the political opponents that didn't commit crimes.
And I went on groceries. It's a very simple word, groceries. Like almost, you know, who uses the word? I started using the word, the groceries. When you buy apples, when you buy bacon, when you buy eggs, they would double and triple the price over a short period of time. And I won an election based on that. We're going to bring those prices way down.
I want to pause here because what you're saying is significant. Because you wrote on Truth Social in 2023 that you're going to appoint a real special prosecutor to go after Joe Biden. Now you're saying you're not going to do that.
I will say this. No, I'm not doing that unless I find something that I think is reasonable. But that's not going to be my decision. That's going to be Pam Bondi's decision, and to a different extent, Kash Patel, assuming they're both there. And I think they're both going to get approved. But you know, while you ask me that, what they've done to me with weaponization is a disgrace.
We'll get to some of that.
No,
sir.
wait. You can't do one without the other.
It's like, hey, are Trump, are you going to prosecute your political opponents? Well, which political opponents? The ones that have committed crimes or the ones that have not committed crimes? Answer that clarification, and then I'll tell you whether they're going to be prosecuted or not.
In the history of our country, nothing like this has ever happened. And I've won these cases. I've won.
You like how Num? Do you like how like you made a good point, and then I immediately like made like multiple little YouTube clips and shorts and put it up on X and acting like I may have this great idea.
One, and the rest are in the process of being won.
I'm kidding.
Deranged Jack Smith is on his way back to The Hague, where he can execute people. This is where he should have stayed. I think he's dangerous even being there. But I'll tell you what they've done to me in terms of weaponization, indictments, impeachments, and everything else. And in the end, it probably helped me because I got the biggest vote, the most votes any Republican's ever gotten in history.
Pam Bondi talks about investigating the investigators. Do you want her to investigate Jack Smith?
I want her to do what she wants to do.
Do you want to see Jack Smith investigated?
Well, I think he's very corrupt,
absolutely.
I want her to do whatever she has to do.
Are you going to direct her to prosecute
I'm not.
Jack
She's
Smith?
a very smart person. She was a great attorney general in Florida. She's very experienced. I want her to do what she wants to do. I'm not going to instruct her to do it, no.
Sir, are you going to fire the current FBI director, Christopher Wray, who you appointed?
Well, I can't say I'm thrilled with him. He invaded my home. I'm suing the country over it. He invaded Mar-a-Lago. I'm very unhappy with the things he's done. And crime is at an all-time high.
Yeah, great point. It's like, why wouldn't he be fired? Look at what the FBI has done under him. Of course he's getting canned. Why wouldn't we can him?
Migrants are pouring into the country that are from prisons and from mental institutions, as we've discussed. I can't say I'm thrilled. I don't want to be Joe Biden and give you an answer and then do the exact opposite.
We're going to talk about
that. So I'm not going to do that. What I'm going to say is I certainly cannot be happy with him. You take a look at what's happened. And then when I was shot in the ear, he said, oh, maybe it was shrapnel. Where's the shrapnel coming from? Is it coming from heaven? I don't think so. So we need somebody to straighten. You know, I have a lot of respect for the FBI, but the FBI's respect has gone way down over the last number of years.
Don't you have to fire him in order to make room for Kash Patel if he is, in fact, confirmed?
Well, I mean, it would sort of seem pretty obvious that if Kash gets in, he's going to be taking somebody's place, right? And somebody is the man that you're talking about.
I asked you last time we sat down for an interview if you were going to pardon yourself. You said no. But now that President Biden has pardoned his son, Hunter, are you reconsidering? Might you pardon yourself?
I didn't do anything wrong. I was given the option.
And yeah, why would Trump pardon himself? He hasn't committed any crimes.
Lawyers told me, a very specific lawyer, I don't have to go into who, but very high up in the administration said, sir, if you pardon yourself, you're going to look guilty.
Right, Num.
And you did nothing wrong. Oh, I had that option. I could have saved myself a lot of legal fees.
Dude, I bet guess. By the way, JPS, welcome to the stream. JPS, thanks for being here. I'm seeing you in chat. JPS, welcome.
But it turned out that I was right. Look at what's gone on. Everything's being dropped.
I agree, conservative Irk. I wish Trump was more vengeful. I wish Trump was trying to take more revenge. I wish Trump was everything the Democrats say he is. You know, it's like everything the Democrats say, oh, Trump's going to prosecute Joe Biden. Trump's going to use the military to do mass deportation. Like, none of it's true, but it's like, I wish it was.
I still have a Fani Willis, a total hoax. That's a total hoax. It's all being dropped.
I also asked the president-elect about NBC News.
Well, so she just cuts him off?
Reporting that President Biden is considering preemptive pardons for some of the people who have clashed with Mr. Trump, including Senator-elect Adam Schiff, Dr. Anthony Fauci, and former Congresswoman Liz Cheney. As part of his response, Mr. Trump lashed out at the January 6th committee, accusing it of unfairly targeting him and even of destroying its records, which the committee denies.
And Cheney was behind it, and so was Benny Thompson and everybody on that committee. For what they did, honestly, they should go to jail.
So you think Liz Cheney should go to jail?
For what they did.
Everyone on the committee, you think
I think everybody anybody that voted in favor.
Are you going to direct your FBI director and your attorney general to send them to jail?
No, not at all. I think that they'll have to look at that, but I'm going to focus on drill, baby, drill.
And I asked the president-elect if he plans to follow through on his campaign promise to pardon those who attacked the Capitol on January 6th, including the more than 900
I love how Trump just says it like it is.
People who pleaded guilty to crime.
I have no idea, Altair. This is the worst editing I've ever seen.
I'm going to look at everything. We're going to look at individual cases,
Okay.
But I'm going to be acting very quickly.
Within your first 100 days, first day?
First day.
First day.
Yeah, I'm looking first day.
Issue these pardons.
These people have been there. How long is it? 3 or 4 years?
Okay.
You know, by the way, they've been in there for years. And they're in a filthy, disgusting place that shouldn't even be allowed to be open.
And when we come back, President-elect Trump's message to the people.
There's Trump's soft on crime, sort of liberal justice, liberal criminal justice mentality. Trump is actually pretty liberal if Democrats ever gave him a chance. Wow.
Who didn't vote for him.
Oh, Grumple. What's up, Grumple?
Welcome back. The Syrian government
Right.
fell overnight, a stunning end to the more than 50-year rule of the Assad family as rebels claimed Damascus. I pressed the president-elect on a range of foreign policy issues, including U.S. support for Ukraine and NATO in his second administration.
Should Ukraine prepare for less aid from the United States after you're sworn into office?
Yeah, probably. Sure.
You said you can end the war in 24 hours. You've even said you want to try to end it before you're sworn into office. You're actively trying to?
I am.
Have you talked to President Putin?
No, I have not.
You haven't talked to President Putin
No, I have
since
not.
you've been
You mean,
elected?
no, well, I don't want to say that, but I haven't spoken to him recently.
So you've spoken to President Putin since you've
I
been
don't
elected?
want to say that. I don't want to say anything about that because I don't want to do anything that could impede the negotiation.
But you
I want to
have
stop
talked
it.
about
Let me
the
tell you
other
what I
world
have talked
leaders.
about. Let me tell
Okay.
you. There are people being killed in that war at levels that nobody's ever seen before. You have to go back to the Second World War, and even that, if you take a look at, and you know what it is? It's the soldiers largely. The cities have been emptied out and demolished. The country has been demolished. If I won that election, which you know how I feel about it, I won't get into it because we don't need to start that argument. I think it's an easy argument. It was really proven even more conclusively by the win that I had on this one.
But you did
had
go to court,
I,
sir.
well, that's your opinion, but I disagree with it. Had I kept control.
Oh, I love
number
that
one,
so much, man.
Israel
I love
wouldn't have
that so
happened. Number
much.
two, Ukraine would have never happened. It would have never happened, Ukraine, Russia. But the number of people that are being killed, soldiers, young, beautiful soldiers, hundreds of thousands of people are being killed. And you know, it's very interesting. It's level. Totally level, the battlefields.
Correct,
totally level.
Altair.
You know what's
Good
happening?
point.
The only thing that stops a bullet, you know what it is a body, a human body. And the people that are being killed, hundreds of thousands on both sides. Russia's lost probably 500,000. Ukraine's lost higher than they say, probably 400,000. You're talking about hundreds of thousands of bodies laying all over fields. It's the stupidest thing I've ever seen, and it should have never been allowed to happen. Biden should have been able to stop it.
Sir, will the United
Well
States
said.
stay in NATO while you're in office?
In where?
NATO. Do you commit that the United States will remain a member of NATO while you're in office?
Again, they have to pay their bills. If they pay their bills, absolutely.
But not if they don't pay their bills.
But NATO's taken advantage of us because we were look, two things. Number one, they take advantage of us on trade, meaning the European nations, okay, like terrible. They don't take our cars, they don't take our food product, they don't take anything. They take, it's a disgrace. And on top of that, we defend them. So it's a double whammy. So let me just tell you, I was able to get hundreds of billions of dollars put into NATO just by a tough attitude. I said to the countries, I'm not going to protect you unless you pay. And they started paying. And that amounted to more than $600 billion. That's a big thing. Otherwise, they wouldn't even be fighting. They wouldn't have any money to fight. If they're paying their bills, and if I think they're doing they're treating us fairly, the answer is absolutely, I'd stay with NATO.
But if not, you would consider the possibility of
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
The president-elect is tasking Elon Musk, the billionaire CEO of Tesla and SpaceX, to try to cut government spending, along with one of Mr. Trump's former...
Yeah, this is horrible, conservative Irk. Well, we're stuck here watching it, number one, because it's Trump gave an exclusive to him, so there's that.
primary rivals, businessman Vivek Ramaswamy. All of it putting a spotlight on what it could mean for entitlements and defense spending.
You've tapped Elon Musk, Vivek Ramaswamy to head up.
I would have much rather. I would have much rather just watched this interview raw, with zero editing. And with zero commentary. She's just annoying with the inserts. It's like, give me the raw interview, please. This is BS. I hate this.
Department of Government Efficiency.
Correct.
Which proposes cuts to the federal government. I think a lot of people hear that and they get concerned about Medicare and Social Security and
Not
Medicaid
going to have anything to do.
and defense spending.
We're talking
you
about
won't touch
theft,
Medicare, Social Security.
Abuse, fraud.
Okay.
No, I said to people, we're not touching Social Security, other than we make it more efficient. But the people are going to get what they're getting.
Okay, so the entitlements
And
off
we're not
the
raising,
table.
and we're not raising ages or any of that stuff.
Okay,
No,
off the table.
I won't do it.
And finally, I asked the president-elect about this extraordinary moment in time. He is taking office against the backdrop of a country that is so sharply divided, and when he has yet to concede the 2020 election, which he lost.
Wow.
Sir, I don't have to tell you this because
Who
you've talked about it. It
cares?
comes at a time when the country is deeply divided. And now you're going to be leading this country for the next 4 years. For the sake of unifying this country, will you concede the 2020 election and turn the page on that chapter?
We're really not, Num. No, we're not.
No, why would I do that? But let me just tell you,
You
when
won't
you
ever
say the
concede.
country is deeply divided, I'm not the president. Joe Biden's the president.
But you're going to be the
Yeah,
president.
No, no.
Joe Biden divided us.
I'm not the president.
Democrats
so
divided
when you say
us.
it's deeply divided, I agree. But Biden's the president, I'm not. And he has been a divider. And you know where he divided it more than anything else, and it probably backfired on him, I think definitely, is weaponization. When he weaponized the Justice Department and he went after his political opponent, me, he went after his political opponent violently because he knew he couldn't beat him. And I think it really was a bad thing. And it really divided our country.
Sir,
What's absolutely amazing about this, Altair, like Donald Trump saying, "No, why would I do that?" And then he was asked, like, "Are you going to direct your people to do this?" He said, "No." Like, he's actually answering the question. There was 2 or 3 other times where he's directly answered questions with yes or no, and it's like, it's so refreshing because most of these times these politicians, like, we know what the answer is, but they just won't say it and they'll hem and haw about it. It's like, gosh, it's so nice to have Trump just say yes or no to these questions. Like, are you going to pardon January 6th? Yeah, I am. Like, on day one? Yeah, on day one. It's like, oh, thank you. Thanks for actually answering. It's just like unbelievable.
Democrats have control of the White House now. They didn't in 2020. If they are going around stealing elections, why
When you
didn't
say
they do it
Democrats
this
have
time?
control now?
Of the White House.
Yeah.
So why didn't they steal this election? Since they have more power now.
Because I think it was too big to rig.
So you won't.
Too big to rig.
To the people who say that you're now directing your Justice Department to investigate 2020, and they want to move on.
Very capable.
Is that
I think Pam is going to be great.
Precious resources.
By the way,
is that what you want them to do?
Just so you know, I have the right to do that, but I'm not interested in that.
Oh, you're not. You're not going to do that.
I'm not interested.
Okay.
I have the absolute right. I'm the chief law enforcement officer. You do know that. I'm the president. But I'm not interested in that. You know what I'm interested in? Drilling and getting prices down and stopping people from pouring into our border that come from prisons and mental institutions.
One of the things that made this campaign unprecedented and extraordinary were the horrific attempts against your life. 2 assassination attempts. Yeah. Do you feel safe going into the White House for the next 4 years? Why?
I have confidence in Secret Service. I know the people. I got to know a lot of them, and I have confidence. It was a bad moment. Something shouldn't have happened, but I have a lot of confidence, and they've really stepped it up. They were restricted from giving look, I'd do a rally, and you were at many of them, and I'd have 50,000 people. Joe would have a rally, and he'd have 30 people, and he had more Secret Service than me. My Secret Service was always asking for more manpower / women power. They were asking for more and more and more, and they couldn't get it. I'm not blaming them, really, because they were always fighting for more people, and they wouldn't get. Now, boy, do we have it.
I want to ask you, sir, one final question. What do you want to say to Americans who didn't support you?
Wow, that's interesting. So they really ramped up Social Security presence and Social Security manpower for Trump after that. Freaking too little, too late. It was like about time.
This campaign.
I'm going to treat you every bit as well as I have treated the greatest MAGA supporters. There's never been anything like MAGA in the history of this country. These people are so dedicated to making America great again. It's very simple. And I'm going to treat them just the same as I treat MAGA. We're going to treat everybody good. We want success for our country. We want safety for our country. You know, our country's under threat, as you know. We have a tremendous threat militarily because of the power of weapons and weaponry. It's a tremendous threat. Nobody talks about it, but it's a tremendous threat. I want to treat everybody the same. I want to treat them well. And at the end of this 4 years, and I have a big head start because I was there for 4 years fairly recently. A lot of bad things were done during the 4 years that I wasn't there, and mostly in what they've done in terms of our reputation overseas. Our reputation is so bad, so shot. I got to bring it back, and I also have to.
Yes, and he will bring it back. He will bring it back.
Bring back civilization to our country. Our country is a crime pot, and we have to get rid of crime. We have so many things to do. We have to do the prices. We have to do all of that. But we have to get the criminals out of our country. We have to bring down crime. People have to be able to walk across the street and buy a loaf of bread without being shot, and that's going to happen. But what I say to them is, I love you, and we're going to all work
I know,
together,
conservative.
bring it together.
I agree.
And you know what's going to bring it together? Success. I saw that just prior to COVID coming in, I had polls that were the highest anyone. McLaughlin and Fabrizio said, George Washington and Abraham Lincoln, if they came back from the dead and they ran as president and vice president, couldn't beat you, sir. We were doing so well. And I was getting along with the left. Let's call it the left. We'll be nice. Okay, we're just going to call it. But I was getting along with people that you would consider liberal or progressive, as they like to say, at levels that I never thought was possible. And you know what it was? Success. Success was bringing the country together, and that's what I want to do.
And when we come back, President-elect Trump gives us a preview of his inaugural address. Welcome back. When Mr. Trump is sworn in as president in January, he will be the oldest person ever to assume the office. I asked Mr. Trump about what he will say in that inaugural address and whether he will release his medical records.
Let me ask you, sir, as you think about your inauguration, I remember your first inaugural address, you talked about American carnage. Have you thought about your message for your second inaugural address?
I have.
Can you give us a preview?
We're going to have a message that will make you happy, unity. It's going to be a message of unity. And again, I think success brings unity. And I've experienced that. I've experienced it in my first term, as I said. We're going to be talking about unity. We're going to be talking about success, making our country safe, keeping people that shouldn't be in our country out. We have to do that. I know it doesn't sound nice, but we have to do that. But basically, it's going to be about bringing our country together.
Sir, when you think about your time in office, you are making history for a range of reasons, including the fact you will be the oldest person to be sworn into office. Do you commit to releasing your medical records?
Sure. I do it all the time. I think I've released 4 of them.
Not just a letter, though, your full medical report.
Yeah, I would, and I think anybody should, but I mean, according to all the reports, I don't want to, where's wood? Is there some wood where I can knock on wood? But my reports are very good, very strong.
So you plan to release
Sure,
them?
I have no problem with it.
And you can watch our full interview with President-elect Donald Trump at NBCNews.com. And when we come back, the panel is here for reaction. Welcome back. The panel is here. NBC News managing Washington editor Carol Lee, Eugene Daniels, White House correspondent for Politico and co-author of Politico Playbook, former White House press secretary Jen Psaki, host of Inside with Jen Psaki, and Mark Short, former chief of staff to Vice President Mike Pence. Thanks to all of you for being here on a very big Sunday. Carol, let me start with you. You broke the news earlier this week that President Biden was going to pardon his son Hunter. It's just one of the many topics we discussed. What were your key takeaways from this conversation?
Well, a couple of things, Kristen. You know, I was struck by how succinctly the president-elect summed up his mandate. He said, I won on the border and I won on groceries, and how quickly he
Dude, sweet, Grumple. I've never pinned a chat message like that. Yo, cool. Check that out. Pinned by lecture fan. Mount Trump more.
to move on both of those fronts. And then his posture on retribution against his perceived political adversaries. You know, he is suggesting that he'll keep some distance from the FBI and the Justice Department in a way perhaps he didn't during his first term. So he's saying, you know, those decisions about investigations, they'll be left up to the people that I put in those agencies. However, you know, some of these folks.
What? What planet is she living on? Where does she get her information? That's false.
Should probably be in jail. And so, you know, that message comes off as a little bit mixed, and he's saying it knowing that the people that he's putting in these jobs are people who share his views on these issues. And so it'll...
Duh! Every president puts people in positions that share the president's views. Oh my gosh, it's a scandal. The president appointed somebody that agrees with the president.
Be very interesting to see how that plays out.
It will be, Eugene, and to hear him back away from what he had posted on Truth Social that he did want to go after President Biden. He backed away from that. Yeah. He said his success is going to be his retribution, but as Carol notes, there was some...
Trump has always said that retribution is going to be a success. He said that during the campaign. You guys have had fake news about this for months and months, and Trump has consistently said that success will be his retribution. Why will you frickin' liars just refuse to accept it? Because you're liars.
Mixed messaging, broadly speaking, had some pretty strong language for the January 6th committee.
Yeah, I think one of the things that was most fascinating is he didn't seem very combative in this interview.
Oh, Eric, new rules, Eric. New rules, Eric. By the way, new rules, Eric. Check out the new rules, Eric. New rules are in chat.
Right? Including on those points, right? He said some names. He said Benny Thompson, Liz Cheney, maybe they should be in jail, maybe not. That's someone else's decision. But he didn't want to fight with you, right? And it's something that he often wants to do. So it shows you, one, that he feels emboldened. He won this election. He feels ready to move on. And I thought what was most fascinating is there's no ideological purity with him, and that popped up over and over and over again, right? It's a patchwork of different policies.
Yes, conservative Irk. Actually, I've received lots of compliments on my hair. Every time I get a haircut, my hairdresser say, "Holy cow, you have a lot of hair and it's very thick." And so I have actually heard that before, conservative Irk, and I feel blessed, and I am grateful and thankful that I drew a good lottery, drew a good genetic lottery with the hairline issue, I guess, because. Oh, nice. Num, thank you.
There was some...
Trump has always said that retribution... Thank you, Num. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, the vertical layout could be better, but that'll work. Thank you.
prescriptions for things that usually, if you're a Republican, there's kind of, this, and this, and that's what we care about. That wasn't here with Donald Trump. And I think that kind of gives voters what they wanted, which was not exactly a Republican who's going to do all of the things that Republicans typically do.
It's a fascinating way to put it, Mark, that there's no ideological purity that we heard, but he was very clear about what his agenda items were, and he feels emboldened that he believes he has a mandate after his decisive win.
Well, he should. And I thought he looked very relaxed and confident in your long interview covering a lot of things.
Oh man, Grumple, how do I add that as a command? I need to improve my stream, Grumple. I need to improve my stream. Holy cow, how do I enable that?
Topics. I do think that you're going to see a flurry of activity in the first 100 days from the executive branch, but I do think something that's being underappreciated here from a legislative agenda is what is the legislative agenda? The one item that's really there is going to be trying to renew the tax relief package from 2017. And when that was passed, 12 House Republicans defected. So we talk about the fact that there are 53 Republican senators, which should help in his confirmations. But Speaker Johnson's going to have an enormous task next year, and it's going to be a really hard job. And he really is going to have a margin of 1 or 2 members at all to actually can lose. And so getting legislation through the Congress is going to be very difficult. And certainly if Trump isn't getting his way, he's going to blame Senate and House leadership for that.
And those tax cuts are very unpopular across the country, which
is
another
I don't know
challenge.
About that. Come on.
They are in every piece of data, Mark. They're in every piece of data. That's why it's interesting that it's his agenda.
Kamala would have done a lot better if that was
the case. One of the things that struck me, Kristen, yes, the tone was different, but it doesn't mean it's a difference in his priorities or his policies. Because even when you listen to what he had to say about retribution will be through success. That's not saying he's not going to go after his political enemies. What I heard was him trying to give some space for himself for plausible deniability, because he picked these people, and Carol touched on this. Pam Bondi and Kash Patel are election deniers. Kash Patel is somebody who has empathized with QAnon. They know what the direction is. He does not need to direct them. This is why he picked them. They have passed the loyalty test. So what struck me is more tone, not a difference in what he intends to do or what he wants the people he's nominating to do.
It's a really critical point. He's also put hardliners in charge of his immigration policy, which I thought it was a big headline for him to say, we are deporting everyone, Eugene, though he said, yes, he wants to try to work out a deal for Dreamers.
Yeah, I think that is where he's thought the most about when you think about what his policies are going to be is immigration. When you went through tick by tick by tick of the kinds of things that we're seeing, he had a lot of ideas, and it was the kind of most clarity we've gotten on immigration from him. I will also say he and his team feel like he has the backing of the American people, especially on mass deportation, because in some polls, 53% of Americans say that they are for mass deportation. Now, when you dig into kind of what that means and whether you want your neighbors to get out of the country, or what happens with children, or when you see that woman that he's talking about getting pulled away, is that different? And he talked about, I think most interestingly, the public might turn against us on immigration, so they have to be careful there, is what he's saying.
Carol.
That was what struck me, is that he seems a little uncertain about how some of this stuff's going to play out. Yes, he's going to do it. But, when you talk about birthright citizenship, first of all, there are other countries that have birthright citizenship. It's not just the United States. But he said, if we can do it by an executive order, maybe we'll have to take it to the people, suggesting some sort of constitutional amendment. And on mass deportations, he talked about how this might play out publicly. He talks about the woman who's crying and the cameras are capturing her as she's being deported. And he said, then the public turns against us. So he's not real confident that this is going to play out exactly how he wants it
Such a revelatory moment there. Jen, we talked about foreign policy as well. Of course, we're all watching what's happening in Syria. The government has been toppled. I talked to him about Ukraine and NATO. Boy, he really left the door open to potentially pulling out of NATO.
He certainly did, which I don't think should be a surprise. He also refused, after you pushed him repeatedly, to answer the question as to whether he talked to Vladimir Putin.
Yes,
and when you look
I tried.
When you look at the statement he put out in response to Assad fleeing the country, it was almost defensive of Putin and defensive of the Russians' interest. So this is definitely a massive shift. There is an allegiance, an affinity for Russia that is different than what we have had in Democratic and Republican presidents for decades.
And Mark, he was very clear. There will likely be less funding for Ukraine with the last 30 seconds we have.
Well, sure, that's been his position all along. I think that the ones who are celebrating most right now in the situation in Syria is the fact that, I should say, the ones who I think are most concerned are Putin, the Ayatollah, and Tulsi Gabbard.
And by the way, I asked him about Tulsi Gabbard. He said he has confidence in her, and Pete Hegseth, who's also another embattled.
This Week with George Stephanopoulos starts right now.
Stunning takeover. Overnight, Syrian rebels seized control of Damascus in a lightning offensive, overthrowing decades of brutal Assad family rule. Syrians take to the streets in jubilation as Bashar al-Assad reportedly flees. James Longman reports on the breaking developments, and former CENTCOM commander retired General Frank McKenzie joins us. A brazen murder grips the nation.
This was a premeditated, pre-planned, targeted attack.
United Healthcare CEO fatally shot in Manhattan. The murderer on the loose as the manhunt now spreads across the country.
We are seeking information from the public to help identify the shooter.
This morning, Aaron Katursky and our law enforcement experts break down the latest. Plus, Democratic Congressman Ro Khanna on the fallout. And
the first thing we have to do is get the criminals out of our country.
Donald Trump taps hardliners for top border enforcement jobs as his defense secretary pick faces new challenges.
As long as Donald Trump wants me in this fight, I'm going to be standing right here in this fight.
We speak with Republican Congressman Byron Donalds, and our Powerhouse Roundtable weighs in.
From ABC News, it's This Week. Here now, Martha Raddatz.
Good morning. As we come on the air this morning, we are tracking one of the most extraordinary events in Middle East history. In Syria, overnight, rebel forces sweeping through the capital city of Damascus, putting an end to the brutal 24-year dictatorship of Bashar al-Assad. The rebels seen celebrating the stunning turn of events as people poured into the streets in jubilation at Assad's fall. This will have a profound impact on the region and beyond, with almost all the major global powers involved in Syria's ongoing war, including the U.S. Syria's allies, Russia, Iran, and Hezbollah, have been weakened and distracted by their own conflicts, leaving Assad with little protection. In a moment, I'll speak to the former commander of U.S. forces in the region, retired General Frank McKenzie, on what this means, including for the 900 U.S.-based forces in Syria. But we begin this morning with ABC's chief international correspondent, James Longman, with the very latest. Good morning, James.
Yeah, good morning, Martha. Quite simply, Assad's regime was seen to be completely hollow without the support of Iran, Hezbollah and Russia. Bashar al-Assad inherited power from his father nearly 25 years ago. He's been clinging on to power through years of civil war. But now a new rebel movement has managed to topple him in less than 2 weeks.
This morning, history in Syria, with Syrian dictator Bashar al-Assad overthrown with breakneck speed by rebel fighters. In his palace and office, in his private home, discovering the wealth that the Assad regime accumulated over decades in power. The streets in the capital filled with people celebrating. Few saw this coming. Rebels in the state TV studio announcing their triumph, saying the city of Damascus has been liberated. The tyrant Bashar al-Assad.
All right, folks, sorry about that. I had to get cleaned up after eating dinner. The good news is now I'm done eating. Oh, I'm going to sneeze.
Has been toppled. Al Jazeera's Zina Khodor in Damascus this morning following the rebel takeover.
This is the Umayyad Square. This is the center of the Syrian capital. And this is the Syrian state TV and radio, which is now under the control of the opposition. People are there's a lot of celebratory gunfire.
Rebel Military Operations Command now claim Assad has fled Damascus. Assad's military appears.
All right, so what I'm going to do, though, is